The vampire king had lived 1,000 years without fear, but the moment the woman whispered his true name in her sleep, his immortal heart stuttered. Seraphon Ravencourt stood motionless beside the narrow bed in his private quarters, watching the human woman who had collapsed in his receiving hall only an hour before. She had stumbled through the hidden entrance to his underground court, half delirious with exhaustion, clutching a leather journal to her chest. His guards had nearly killed her on sight. He had stopped them with a raised hand, intrigued by the terror and determination warring in her dark eyes. Now she slept, her chest rising and falling with the steady rhythm of mortal breath. Her hair spread across his silk pillow like spilled ink. Her clothes were travel-worn, her boots scuffed, her hands marked with ink stains. She looked like a scholar, or perhaps a thief. He had not yet decided which interested him more. Then her lips moved. A whisper, so soft that human ears would have missed it entirely. Seraphon. The air left his lungs. His fingers tightened on the bedpost hard enough to crack the wood. That name. That specific name. Not Seraphon, the title he had carried for centuries, but Seraphon, the name his mother had spoken the night he was born, the name buried with his mortal life, the name that held power over his very existence. No one living knew it. He had made certain of that. He moved to the door in a blur of preternatural speed, locking it with hands that were not quite steady. Then he returned to her side, studying her face with new intensity. She was young, perhaps 25, with warm brown skin and features that suggested mixed heritage. Nothing about her appearance sparked recognition. He had never seen her before tonight, yet she knew. "Who are you?" he murmured, though she could not hear him. "What are you?" She stirred, her head turning on the pillow. Her lips parted again. "Seraphon, please, I can't find you." His mind raced through possibilities. A witch, perhaps, one skilled enough to scry through history, but even the most powerful witches could not uncover a name deliberately hidden behind 1,000 years of blood magic and carefully constructed lies. A descendant of someone he had known in his mortal life? Impossible. He had outlived every connection to that time. His family line had ended centuries ago. The woman's breathing changed, growing faster. Her eyes moved beneath their lids. Dreaming, he realized. She was dreaming, and whatever she saw troubled her. "I'm here," he said softly, surprising himself. "I'm right here." Her expression eased just slightly. Her hand uncurled on the blanket, and he saw the leather journal had fallen to the floor. He picked it up, weighing it in his palm. The leather was worn smooth with handling. Old, but not ancient. Perhaps 50 years. He should not open it, should not invade her privacy before she woke and he could question her properly. He opened it anyway. The first page was dated 3 months ago. The handwriting was neat, precise, the words of someone who organized their thoughts carefully before putting pen to paper. Another dream last night, the same man, the same voice calling me. I've started to remember more details. White hair that falls past his shoulders, eyes like winter storms, a face carved from marble, beautiful and terrible. He stands in a throne room made of dark stone, and I know him. I know him, but I can't remember from where. Seraphon turned the page, his throat tight. I've found references in grandfather's old books. The dream started the night of my 25th birthday, exactly as he predicted. He wrote that I would dream of a name and that I must find the one who bears it, that my bloodline carries a debt and only I can repay it. I thought he was being dramatic. He always loved his stories. But the dreams won't stop, and now I'm not so sure. The entries continued, chronicling dreams that grew more vivid, research that led her deeper into vampire lore, and finally, a location. His location. She had pieced together rumors and whispers until she found the hidden entrance to his court beneath the city. The final entry was written just hours ago. I'm going tonight. I don't know what I'll find. I don't know if he's real or if I've lost my mind chasing ghosts and fairy tales. But I have to know. I have to find Seraphon. He closed the journal carefully and set it on the table beside the bed. His thoughts whirled, a bloodline debt, a grandfather's prediction, dreams that had called her across the country to his doorstep, and through it all, his true name, the key to his very soul. The woman's eyes opened, They were brown, warm, and deep, and completely disoriented. She blinked at the ceiling, then at the unfamiliar room, and finally at him. Her gaze focused, sharpened, and he watched recognition dawn. "You," she breathed. "You're real." "Very real," he said, keeping his voice gentle. "Though I confess I'm at a disadvantage. You collapsed in my home before introductions could be made." She sat up quickly, then swayed. He caught her shoulder, steadying her. Her skin was warm beneath his cold fingers, and he felt her pulse jump at his touch. "I'm sorry," she said. "I've been traveling for 3 days straight. I didn't eat or sleep properly. I just needed to get here before I lost my nerve." She looked at him again, really looked, and something in her expression shifted. "It's you. You're the one from my dreams." "Am I?" He settled into the chair beside the bed, deliberately casual. "Tell me, what do your dreams show you?" "You." She wrapped her arms around herself. "Standing in a great hall, calling my name, or no, not my name exactly, someone's name. I feel like I should come to you, but I never can. There's always a wall between us, or a door I can't open, or a distance I can't cross." She met his eyes. "You're a vampire. The Vampire King, if the rumors are true." "They are." He tilted his head, studying her. "And you are?" "Gemma Winters." She reached for her journal, relaxing slightly when she saw it on the table. "I know this sounds insane. I know I probably seem insane. But my grandfather left me his research, and he wrote that someone in our bloodline was meant to find you, that there was a debt to be repaid, a promise to be kept." She paused. "He wrote your name. Your real name, not the one you use now. Seraphon." There it was, spoken aloud in her waking voice. He kept his expression neutral, but inside, ancient instincts screamed at him to silence her, to ensure that name never left her lips again. Instead, he leaned back in his chair and laced his fingers together. "That is quite a story," he said lightly. "Tell me, Gemma Winters, what makes you think I'm this Seraphon your grandfather mentioned?" "Because you didn't kill me when I said it." Her voice was steady, despite the fear he could smell on her. "You didn't even flinch, which means either it's your name and you have incredible self-control, or it's not, and you're curious why I think it is." She paused. "Your eyes changed color for just a second when I said it. Silver to gold and back again. That's not something a human could fake." Clever girl. He felt a smile tug at his lips despite himself. Very observant. He rose from the chair and moved to the window, though the heavy curtains kept out any hint of approaching dawn. "Your grandfather was a learned man, it seems. Most humans believe vampires have no true names. They think we abandon our mortal identities when we turn." "Most do," Gemma said. "But the truly old ones, the ones who remember what they were, keep them hidden, protected, because a true name has power." She stood, steadier now, and approached him cautiously. "My grandfather spent 40 years researching vampire lore. He believed our family was connected to someone ancient, someone important. And what do you believe?" He turned to face her, and this close, he could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes, could see the way her pulse fluttered in her throat. She was frightened, but she did not back away. "I believe I've dreamed about you for 3 months straight," she said quietly. "I believe I know your face better than my own. I believe I crossed half the country to find you, and now that I have, I don't know what I'm supposed to do next." He laughed, a sound of genuine amusement that surprised them both. "I must confess I don't either. In 1,000 years, no one has arrived at my door claiming ancestral debts and prophetic dreams." He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, noting how she shivered at his touch. "But you did say my true name, Gemma Winters, which means either you are the most elaborate trap ever set for me, or you are telling the truth." "I'm telling the truth." She met his gaze without flinching. "I don't expect you to trust me, but I need to understand. Why would my grandfather send me here? What debt could my family possibly owe you?" "I don't know," he admitted, "but I intend to find out." He moved past her and opened the door. You'll stay here as my guest while we investigate. I'll have food brought to you and proper quarters prepared. You're safe within these walls. And outside them? Outside them, you're a human who knows my true name. That makes you either an invaluable asset or a deadly threat. His expression hardened. Do not attempt to leave without my permission. My people would not be as welcoming as I am. She nodded, understanding the warning beneath his words. Thank you, for not killing me, I mean. The night is young, he said, but his tone was playful. Rest, eat. We'll speak again after sunset tomorrow. He left before she could respond, closing the door behind him and setting guards he trusted outside. Then he made his way through the winding corridors of his underground court to the archive. The archive was older than his kingship, a vast library carved into living stone. Thousands of volumes lined the walls, some written on paper, others on vellum, still others on materials that no longer existed in the modern world. The archivist, a vampire named Mordecai who had served his court for 600 years, looked up as he entered. My lord, Mordecai said, rising from his desk. It's rare to see you before midnight. I need everything you have on ancestral debts, blood oaths, and inherited promises, Seraphon said without preamble, particularly those involving true names. Mordecai's eyebrows rose. That's quite specific. May I ask what prompted this research? A human woman arrived tonight. She spoke my true name. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Mordecai moved, faster than his aged appearance suggested, pulling volumes from the shelves with practiced efficiency. Impossible, the archivist muttered. Your true name died with you. There are no records, no witnesses. Even I don't know it. Nevertheless, Seraphon accepted the first stack of books. She claims her grandfather left her research, that her bloodline owes me a debt. I need to know if such a thing is possible. If it is, it would be old magic. Very old. Mordecai set more books on the table. The kind that predates written records. The kind that passes through blood and bone, not books and scrolls. Seraphon opened the first volume, scanning text written in a language few still remembered. Then we start with the oldest sources. Find me everything about oaths that transcend death, promises that bind descendants, magic that works through dreams. Dreams? Mordecai paused. She dreams of you? She's been dreaming of me for 3 months, since her 25th birthday. He looked up, meeting the archivist's gaze. Her grandfather predicted it, told her she would dream of a name, and that she must find its bearer. A prophecy, then. Mordecai rubbed his jaw. Or a curse, depending on one's perspective. Either way, it suggests someone in her bloodline had knowledge they should not have possessed, knowledge they deliberately passed down through generations. Someone I knew, Seraphon said slowly. Someone who learned my true name and used it to bind their descendants. But why? Mordecai gestured to the books. What purpose would it serve? What debt could be so important that it required such elaborate magic? That, Seraphon said, is what we're going to find out. They worked through the day while the human world went about its business far above. Seraphon read until the ancient words blurred together, searching for any reference that might explain Gemma's impossible knowledge. The sun rose and set beyond the thick stone walls. He did not sleep. He rarely needed to. As midnight approached, he found it, a passage in a crumbling text written in Old Akkadian, describing a practice nearly lost to time. Life debt binding, he read aloud. When a vampire saves a mortal life, the saved may offer their bloodline as eternal surety. The debt passes to their children, and their children's children until it is repaid. He looked up at Mordecai. The binding requires the vampire's true name, spoken freely in trust. The knowledge passes through the blood, awakening in the air when they come of age. Dangerous, Mordecai said. Giving your true name to a mortal is one of the few ways a vampire can be truly vulnerable. Yes. Seraphon closed the book carefully. Which means whoever made this oath, I trusted them completely. Can you remember? Mordecai asked gently. 1,000 years is a long time even for us. Many of us lose the details of our mortal lives. Seraphon stood and moved to the window. Through the thick glass, he could see the faint lights of the city above. I remember fragments. My mother's face, the village where I was born, the night I was turned. He paused. But there's a gap, years of my mortal life that feel distant, like a story someone told me rather than something I lived. The binding might have obscured them, Mordecai suggested. Some oaths require forgetting as part of their price. If you deliberately buried memories to protect someone, it would explain why you don't remember making the promise. Or someone made me forget. Seraphon's voice went cold. There are vampires old enough, powerful enough to alter memories. If someone wanted this debt hidden, they could have ensured I would never remember it. Then how do we break it? We don't. Seraphon turned from the window. If Gemma's bloodline has carried this burden for generations, waiting for the right heir to find me, then there's a reason. Something unfinished. Something that matters enough to span a millennium. He moved toward the door. I need to speak with her again. Perhaps together we can remember what I've forgotten. He found her in the quarters he'd prepared, sitting by the window with her journal open on her lap. She'd bathed and changed into clothes his servants had provided. She looked less exhausted now, though worry still shadowed her features. She stood when he entered, and he gestured for her to sit. You don't need to fear me, he said, settling into the chair across from her. If I intended you harm, you would not have woken this morning. I don't fear you, she said, and he was surprised to find it was true. Her heartbeat was steady, her gaze direct. I'm just trying to understand all of this. I've spent 3 months thinking I was losing my mind, and now I find out it's real. You're real, and apparently my family has been bound to you for generations. Did your grandfather tell you anything else? He asked. Anything about how the connection was formed? Only that someone in our family saved your life once, and you saved theirs in return. She touched the journal. He wrote that the debt went both ways, that we owed you protection, and you owed us aid, but he never explained what that meant. Protection. The word stirred something in Seraphon's memory, faint and distant. From what? He didn't say. Just that when the time came, I would know. She met his eyes. Do you remember? Anything about my family, I mean. We've been Winters for at least 200 years, but before that, the name changed. My grandfather thought our original line might have been different. Seraphon leaned back, searching through centuries of memories. The name means nothing to me. But if the binding is as old as I suspect, your family would have changed names many times, hidden themselves perhaps, kept the secret through generations. So we're both blind, Gemma said quietly. I don't know why I'm here, and you don't remember why I should be. Not entirely blind. He stood and held out his hand. Come with me. There's something I want to try. She took his hand without hesitation, her warm fingers closing around his cold ones. He led her through the corridors to his private chambers, the rooms he shared with no one. His guards looked surprised, but said nothing. They knew better than to question their king. Inside, he guided her to a large mirror framed in silver. Look, he said softly. Look at us together. She did, and he watched her reflection study them. They were a study in contrasts, his pale skin and white hair against her warmth and color, his stillness against her living pulse. But there was something else, something that nagged at the edge of his awareness. What am I looking for? She asked. I don't know yet. He moved to stand behind her, his hands resting lightly on her shoulders. Close your eyes. Tell me what you see in your dreams. She obeyed, her lashes falling against her cheeks. I see you in a great hall. You're angry. No, not angry. Desperate. You're calling for someone, but they can't hear you. There's smoke and fire and screaming. You're trying to reach someone, but you can't. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You're calling my name, not Gemma. Another name, longer, older. What name? He urged, his grip tightening slightly. "Gwendolyn," she breathed. "You're calling for Gwendolyn!" The name hit him like a physical blow. The mirror cracked down the center, spider webbing out from the point where his gaze had fixed. Gemma's eyes flew open, and she gasped, but he held her steady. "Gwendolyn," he repeated, and suddenly he was somewhere else, someone else. A village burning, screams echoing through the night. His hands, still mortal, pulling a girl from a burning building. Her face, soot-stained and terrified, looking up at him with trust he hadn't yet earned. "Stay with me," he had said. "I'll keep you safe." And she had believed him. The memory fragmented, scattered like leaves in wind. But he had it now, the thread that connected past to present. Gwendolyn. The girl he'd saved before he was turned. The girl who had saved him in return when his maker had come for him, warning him in time to flee. The girl who had sworn her bloodline would always remember him, would always protect him, because he had protected her first. "Seraphon," Gemma said urgently. "Are you all right? Your eyes are glowing." He released her and stepped back, forcibly calming himself. The mirror repaired itself slowly, the cracks sealing as his power receded. "I remember," he said hoarsely. "I remember her. Gwendolyn. She was yours, wasn't she? Your ancestor." "I don't know," Gemma admitted. "My grandfather never gave me her name. He said I would learn it when the time was right." It was her. He moved to his desk and pulled out a map, spreading it across the surface. She lived here, in this region, a small village that doesn't exist anymore. I was 17, barely old enough to be called a man. There was a fire. I pulled her from her home before it collapsed. He traced the location with one finger. 3 weeks later, a vampire came to the village, ancient, powerful, looking for someone to turn. He chose me. "And Gwendolyn warned you," Gemma said softly, understanding dawning in her eyes. "She figured out what he was, and she warned you before he could take you." "Yes, but I was a fool. I didn't listen. I thought I could fight him." Seraphon's jaw tightened. "He overpowered me easily, turned me by force. When I woke as a vampire, the first thing I wanted was to go back to the village, to Gwendolyn, to thank her for trying to save me." "But you couldn't," Gemma guessed. "Because you were a vampire now, and she was human. You would have put her in danger. More than that, my maker forbade it. He said I was his creature now, bound to him by blood and law. I couldn't return to my old life." Seraphon's hands clenched into fists. "But I went anyway, one last time, to tell her goodbye, to warn her to forget me." "And she refused," Gemma said. "She made you promise to remember her, to remember that she had tried to save you, and that her family would always be your ally." "I gave her my true name," Seraphon said quietly, "the name only my mother had ever spoken. I told her that if she or her descendants ever needed me, they should speak it, and I would come." He looked at Gemma. "I never thought it would actually work. I thought it was a romantic gesture, the kind of dramatic promise a newly turned vampire makes before he understands how long eternity really is. But it did work." Gemma moved to stand beside him, looking down at the map. "The promise bound our bloodlines together, yours and hers, and it's been waiting all this time for me to come of age. The question is why now?" Seraphon studied her face. "Why did the bond awaken in you? What changed?" Before she could answer, the door burst open. One of his guards stumbled in, his face ashen. "My lord, we have a problem. The Elders' Council has called an emergency session. They demand your presence immediately." Seraphon's expression went cold. "On what grounds?" "They've heard rumors about a human who spoke your true name." The guard's gaze flicked to Gemma. "They're calling it a security breach. They want her brought before them for questioning." "No." The word was absolute, brooking no argument. "She is under my protection. She stays here." "My lord, they threaten to bring an enforcement squad. They claim the right to investigate any threat to the kingdom's safety." Seraphon moved so fast the guard flinched. They have no such right. I am their king. My word is law. With respect, my lord, the guard said carefully. The elders' council has the authority to challenge a king's judgment if they believe he is compromised. They're saying your protection of the human proves you've been influenced. By what? A woman who weighs 100 pounds and has no supernatural abilities whatsoever? Seraphon's voice dripped with disdain. Tell the council I will address their concerns when I'm satisfied with my own investigation. Until then, they can wait. The guard bowed and left quickly. Seraphon turned to find Gemma watching him with a mixture of concern and something else. Admiration, perhaps. I don't want to cause problems for you, she said. If meeting with them would help. Absolutely not. He moved to her side, and the force of his presence was suddenly overwhelming. The Elders' Council is a relic of a time when vampires ruled through committees and bureaucracy. They resent that I consolidated power. They've been looking for an excuse to undermine me for decades. I will not hand you to them. Because you don't trust them, she said slowly, or because you're starting to feel something for me. The question hung in the air between them. Seraphon studied her, this mortal woman who had appeared in his life like a comet, burning bright and impossible to ignore. He had lived 1,000 years, and in that time he had felt desire, amusement, curiosity. But this was different. This was the pull of an old promise, yes, but also something more immediate, something present. Both, he admitted. I don't trust them. But I also find that I don't want to let you go. Not yet. Not until I understand what you mean. What I mean? She moved closer, brave despite the danger. I'm just a woman who followed her grandfather's research. I'm not special. You are the heir to a bloodline I trusted enough to give my true name, he said softly. You carry in your veins the legacy of a girl who tried to save me when no one else cared. You dreamed your way across the country to find me. You are far more special than you realize, Gemma Winters. She reached up and touched his face, her warm palm against his cool cheek. Then help me understand. What am I supposed to do now that I've found you? He caught her hand, holding it against his face. I don't know, but we'll figure it out together. A knock at the door interrupted them. Seraphon released her hand with obvious reluctance. Enter. Mordecai stepped inside, his expression grave. My lord, I've found something you need to see immediately. They followed the archivist back to the library, where he had spread a series of ancient texts across his desk. I kept researching after you left. I wanted to understand why the binding would activate now, after so many generations. He pointed to a passage in Old Norse. Life debt bindings typically remain dormant unless the original threat resurfaces. What threat? Gemma asked. The reason the debt was created in the first place. Mordecai looked at Seraphon. You said a vampire came to your village, an ancient one. Do you remember his name? Seraphon's expression darkened. Valdrin. Valdrin the Ancient. He called himself a collector of promising specimens. Valdrin, Mordecai repeated. I thought that name sounded familiar. He was destroyed 200 years ago, or so the records claim, but there have been rumors recently. Whispers of an ancient vampire returning from what should have been permanent death. That's impossible, Seraphon said flatly. I saw his destruction myself, helped coordinate it. There was nothing left of him but ash. Ashes can be reassembled, given enough time and enough power. Mordecai pulled out another text, this one bound in black leather. There are rituals, dark ones. If someone collected enough of his remains, and if they had the right knowledge, they could reconstitute him. It would take decades, maybe centuries, but it's theoretically possible. And if he returned, Gemma said slowly, the binding would activate, because he's the original threat. The reason Gwendolyn made the promise in the first place. She wasn't just promising to protect Seraphon from Valdrin, Mordecai said. She was promising that her bloodline would warn him if Valdrin ever returned. That's why you're here now. Why the dream started. The binding recognized the threat and drew you to him. Seraphon felt something cold settle in his chest. If Valdrin has returned, he'll be looking for me. And if he's learned that a human woman spoke my true name, he'll be looking for her too. Why? Gemma asked. What would he want with me? Your blood carries the binding, Mordecai explained, which means it carries knowledge of Seraphon's true name. If Valdrin captured you, if he used the right rituals, he could extract that knowledge, and with that knowledge, he could control Seraphon completely. That's why the Elders' Council wants her, Seraphon said, the pieces falling into place. Not because they're worried about security. Because someone on the council is working with Valdrin. They want to hand her over. He moved to the door, already planning. Mordecai, I need you to identify every council member and their primary loyalties. Find out who's been acting strangely, who's been in contact with anyone suspicious. Gemma, you're staying in my quarters from now on. I'm putting my personal guard on your door. Wait. Gemma caught his arm. You're talking about me like I'm a chess piece. I deserve to know what's happening. I deserve to have a say. He turned to her, and his eyes were blazing silver. What's happening is that a vampire who terrorized Europe for centuries may have returned from death, and he will torture and kill you without hesitation if he gets his hands on you. You don't get a say in your own survival, because I won't allow you to make the choice that gets you killed. That's not fair, she said, but her voice shook slightly. No, he agreed. It's not. But it's the reality of being connected to my world. Welcome to the shadows, Gemma. They're not nearly as romantic as your grandfather's books probably suggested. He left before she could argue further, striding through the corridors with Mordecai hurrying to keep up. His mind raced through possibilities, strategies, threats. If Valdrin truly had returned, it meant centuries of careful planning. It meant allies in places Seraphon had never suspected. It meant war was coming, whether he wanted it or not. And Gemma was at the center of it all, bound to him by a promise made before he even understood what eternity meant. He reached his throne room and summoned his most trusted commanders. They arrived quickly, sensing the urgency in his call. There were 5 of them, vampires who had served him for centuries, who had proven their loyalty in blood and battle. We have a situation, he said without preamble. Valdrin may have returned. The silence that followed was absolute. Then the eldest of his commanders, a vampire named Theron, who had fought beside him for 400 years, spoke. Impossible. We watched him burn. Apparently not thoroughly enough. Seraphon began to pace. I need intelligence. Everything you can find about ancient vampires who have been acting strangely. Any rumors of resurrections, of dark rituals, of alliances that don't make sense. I need to know who in this city might be working with him. And the human? Asked another commander, a woman named Isolde. The one the council wants. She's under my protection. Anyone who touches her answers to me personally. My lord, Theron said carefully, if Valdrin truly has returned, protecting one human may not be our highest priority. Seraphon stopped pacing and fixed him with a stare that could have melted steel. That human carries knowledge that could destroy me, which makes her the highest priority in this entire kingdom. If Valdrin gets his hands on her, we all burn. Is that clear? Crystal, Theron said immediately. Good. Now go. I want reports by dawn. They dispersed quickly, and Seraphon found himself alone in the vast throne room. The silence pressed in on him, and for the first time in centuries, he felt the weight of time. 1,000 years of life, of power, of carefully constructed safety, and it all threatened to unravel because of one girl and one impossible promise. He heard her before he saw her, soft footsteps on stone, the rustle of fabric. He turned to find Gemma standing in the doorway, his guards nowhere in sight. Did you kill them? He asked mildly, referring to the guards he'd posted. I asked them nicely to let me through, she said. They seem to think you'd understand. They'll be reassigned to daytime patrol in the park, he said, but there was no real heat in his voice. What are you doing here? I told you to stay in my quarters. And I told you I deserve to have a say. She walked toward him, and he marveled at her courage. She should be terrified. She should be running. Instead, she approached him like an equal. I'm not going to hide while you make decisions about my life. Even if those decisions are meant to keep you alive? Especially then. She stopped a few feet away, and in the dim light of the throne room, she looked almost ethereal. My whole life, I've let other people make choices for me. My parents, my grandfather, professors, employers, friends. I've always been the girl who goes along, who doesn't make waves. But these dreams, this search, finding you, it's the first thing I've ever done entirely for myself. I'm not going to stop being brave now." Something in his chest tightened. "Brave and dead are not mutually exclusive states, Gemma. Neither are brave and alive." She moved closer. "You're afraid. I can see it. For the first time since I met you, you're actually afraid. Not for yourself. For me." "Yes," he admitted. "I'm afraid. Valdrin is not a vampire to be underestimated. He's older than me by centuries, more powerful, and completely ruthless. If he has returned, it means he spent 200 years planning his revenge, and you are the perfect weapon to use against me." "Then teach me," she said simply. "Teach me how to protect myself. Teach me about your world, your laws, your enemies. Make me useful instead of just a liability." He stared at her, this impossible woman with her impossible request. "You want me to teach you to navigate vampire society? In what, a few days? It takes decades to understand our politics, our hierarchies, our rules." "Then give me the short version, the survival guide. What do I need to know to not get myself killed in the next week?" Despite everything, he laughed. "You're serious. Completely." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Very well. Lesson 1. Never show fear. Vampires can smell it, and it marks you as prey. You've actually been excellent at this, whether you realize it or not." "I'm terrified," she admitted. "I know, but you don't smell like it. You smell determined, angry even. That's good. Keep that." He began to walk, and she fell into step beside him. Lesson 2. Everything is about power and hierarchy. I am king, which means I have absolute authority within my domain. But that authority is constantly being tested, constantly being challenged. The Elders' Council represents the old guard, vampires who believe in tradition and collective rule. They hate that I centralized power. "So they'd love any excuse to weaken you," Gemma said. "That's why they jumped on the news about me." "Exactly. Which brings us to lesson 3. In vampire society, secrets are currency. The fact that I'm protecting you, that I won't explain why, that I'm defying the council's demands, it makes them think I'm compromised, that you have some kind of power over me." "Do I?" she asked quietly. He stopped walking and turned to face her. "Yes, but not the kind they think. You don't have power over me because you know my true name. You have power over me because I gave you my protection and I don't break my promises. Even if keeping that promise costs you your throne, even then." He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, letting his fingers linger. "I've been king for 500 years. I've made difficult choices, sacrificed pieces of myself for the good of my people. But some things are worth more than crowns and kingdoms. Some things are worth protecting, even if the world burns around you." "Seraphon," she whispered, and the sound of his true name on her lips sent shivers down his spine. "Careful," he murmured. "Every time you say that name, you bind yourself more tightly to me. The magic recognizes the connection, strengthens it. If you're not careful, you'll find yourself unable to leave even if you want to. Maybe I don't want to leave." She stepped closer, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. "Maybe I've spent 3 months dreaming about you because some part of me knew you were worth finding." He wanted to kiss her. The urge was almost overwhelming, and it took every ounce of his considerable self-control to resist. Instead, he stepped back, putting necessary distance between them. "Don't," he said quietly. "Don't confuse destiny with desire. You're here because of a promise made 1,000 years ago, not because of anything between us specifically. When this is over, when Valdrin is dealt with and you're safe, you'll go back to your life. You'll forget about vampires and throne rooms and midnight courts." "Will I?" She didn't back down. "Because it seems to me like you're the one who's afraid. Not of Valdrin. Of this. Of what's happening between us." "There's nothing happening between us," he said. But even he didn't believe it. "Liar." She smiled, and it was knowing and just a little sad. "You're 1,000 years old, Seraphon. Surely you've learned to recognize when you're falling for someone." "I don't fall." he said. I've lived too long, seen too much. I don't fall. Then what do you call this? She gestured between them. This thing where you look at me like I'm the first sunrise you've seen in centuries. Where you protect me even when it would be smarter to just hand me over. Where you say my name like it's a prayer. He had no answer for her. Or rather, he had too many answers, none of which he was ready to speak aloud, so instead he changed the subject. The council will summon me again tomorrow night. I'll have to address their concerns eventually, or they'll stage a formal challenge to my authority. When that happens, I need you to stay hidden. No arguments, no brave gestures, just stay out of sight until I resolve this. And if you can't resolve it, she asked, if they force the issue, then I'll make it very clear what happens to vampires who defy their king. His voice went cold. I didn't build this kingdom by being soft, Gemma. I won't let them take you. She nodded slowly. I believe you. But what happens after? Let's say Valdrin isn't really back, and the council backs down, and everything goes back to normal. Where does that leave me? Safe, he said, which is all that matters. To you, maybe. She turned away, wrapping her arms around herself. But I came here looking for answers, trying to understand why my family has carried this burden for generations. And all I've found are more questions and a vampire king who won't let himself feel anything. The accusation stung because it was partially true. He had spent centuries learning not to feel too deeply, not to care too much. Attachments were dangerous for immortals. People died, time moved on, and those who loved too fiercely were left with nothing but grief. But standing here, watching Gemma struggle with disappointment and frustration and something that might be hurt, he felt cracks forming in his carefully constructed walls. I feel, he said quietly, more than I want to, more than is wise. She turned back to him, hope lighting her features. Then why push me away? Because you're mortal, and I'm not. Because even if we resolved every external threat, even if we defeated Valdrin and pacified the council and lived in perfect peace, you would still age and die while I remained unchanged. Because caring for you, falling for you, would doom me to watch you fade. He closed the distance between them, his hands cupping her face. And I've lost enough in 1,000 years. I'm not sure I could survive losing you, too. Tears gathered in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. So you'd rather lose me now? Before we've even had a chance? Yes, he said, even though it felt like tearing out his own heart. Because right now, you're still a stranger bound to me by magic and history. Right now, losing you would hurt, but it wouldn't destroy me. Give it time, let this grow, and I wouldn't recover. That's the most romantic and terrible thing anyone has ever said to me, she whispered. I'm a vampire, he said with a slight smile. We're very good at romantic and terrible. A commotion in the hallway interrupted them, voices shouting, the sound of a scuffle. Seraphon released Gemma and moved to the door in a blur. His guards were fighting something, someone, a figure wrapped in shadows that moved with preternatural speed. He recognized the style, the technique, another vampire and a powerful one. Get behind me, he ordered Gemma, and for once she obeyed without argument. The intruder broke through the guards and stood in the doorway, breathing hard. It was a vampire Seraphon knew, a messenger from the Elders' Council named Cassius. My lord, Cassius gasped. I came as quickly as I could. There's been a development. The council has made contact with someone claiming to be Valdrin's representative. They've agreed to a meeting. Without consulting me? Seraphon's voice could have frozen blood. The council claims it's within their rights to conduct diplomatic negotiations. They say they're trying to prevent war. Cassius glanced at Gemma. But I think it's a trap. I think someone on the council is working with Valdrin, and they're trying to lure you into a vulnerable position. When is this meeting? Tomorrow night, midnight, at the old cathedral outside the city. Cassius stepped closer, lowering his voice. My lord, there's something else. The representative mentioned the girl, said that Valdrin knows she's here, knows what she is. He's demanding she be turned over as a gesture of good faith. Seraphon's laugh was sharp and humorless. Good faith? How quaint. Tell the council I'll attend their meeting. But the girl stays here, under guard. Non-negotiable. They anticipated that response. They've threatened to declare you unfit to rule if you refuse to cooperate. Let them try. Seraphon's eyes flashed silver. I've defeated 3 challenges to my throne in 500 years. I'll defeat a 4th if necessary. Cassius bowed. As you command, my lord. But be careful. Valdrin was known for his manipulation, his ability to turn allies against each other. If he's truly returned, he won't face you directly. He'll use every weakness, every crack in your armor. Noted. Now go. Tell the council I'll be at their meeting, and I'll be bringing an army. Cassius left, and Seraphon turned to find Gemma watching him with wide eyes. An army? She said. Is that going to help or make things worse? It's going to make it very clear that I'm not interested in negotiations conducted behind my back. He ran a hand through his white hair. The council has overstepped. Valdrin or no Valdrin, I can't let that stand. This is my fault, Gemma said quietly. If I hadn't come here, if I hadn't spoken your name, none of this would be happening. You're wrong. He moved to her, tipping her chin up so she had to meet his eyes. This conflict has been brewing for centuries. Valdrin's return, if it's real, has nothing to do with you. The council's power play has been coming since the day I took the throne. You're not the cause. You're just the excuse they've been waiting for. That doesn't make me feel better. It should. He brushed his thumb across her cheek. Because it means that whatever happens, it's not on your conscience. You're an innocent in all of this. I don't feel innocent, she murmured. I feel like I've walked into the middle of a war and painted a target on both our backs. Then you understand vampire politics perfectly. He released her and moved to a cabinet in the corner, pulling out a small silver dagger. Take this. Keep it with you at all times. She accepted the weapon gingerly. Will this even work against a vampire? It's silver blessed steel, etched with runes of protection. It won't kill an elder vampire, but it will hurt like hell and give you a chance to run. He closed her fingers around the hilt. If anyone besides me or Mordecai tries to take you from my quarters, you stab first and ask questions never. Understand? Yes. She looked down at the dagger, then back up at him. What about you? What's going to protect you tomorrow night? 500 years of experience and a very bad temper. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'll be fine. This isn't my first war, Gemma. Probably won't be my last. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. He guided her toward the door. Come, I'm taking you back to my quarters, and this time you're staying there. I'm posting 20 guards outside, and if you try to sneak past them again, I'm going to have Mordecai chain you to the bed. Kinky, she said, and he was so surprised he actually laughed. Careful, I might start to think you want to stay in vampire society. Maybe I do, she said, and the honesty in her voice made his chest ache. Maybe I'm tired of running from the extraordinary and settling for the ordinary. Maybe finding you is the best thing that's ever happened to me, even if it comes with death threats and political intrigue. He wanted to tell her she was insane, that the mortal world was safer, saner, infinitely preferable to the nightmare of vampire politics. But looking at her, seeing the determination in her eyes, he couldn't bring himself to lie. You're going to break my heart, he said quietly. I can feel it already. You're going to make me care, and then you're going to leave, and I'm going to spend the next 1,000 years remembering what it felt like to have you in my world. Then don't let me leave, she said simply. When this is over, when Valdrin is dealt with and the council is settled, don't send me away. Let me stay. As what? My pet human? My mortal companion? I've seen those arrangements, Gemma. They never end well. The human grows old, grows resentful, grows to hate the vampire who keeps them trapped in a world they can never truly belong to. Or you could turn me. The words fell like stones into still water. Make me what you are. Then time wouldn't be a factor. No. The refusal was instant and absolute. I've never turned anyone in 1,000 years. I won't start now, especially not with you. I won't be responsible for stealing your mortality, your humanity, your chance at a normal life. What if I don't want a normal life? She caught his arm as he tried to turn away. What if I want this? Want you? What if I'm willing to trade sunlight and aging for eternity and you? You don't know what you're asking. His voice was rough. You've been in my world for 2 days. You've seen the palaces and the power, but you haven't seen the darkness, the hunger, the isolation, the way centuries blur together until you can't remember who you were before. You haven't seen what immortality costs. Then show me, she challenged. Show me the darkness, show me the worst of it, and then let me decide if you're worth it. He stared at her, torn between admiration and frustration. She was so brave, so impossibly brave, and it terrified him. He'd seen brave mortals before. He'd watched them die, slowly or quickly, but always inevitably. The brave ones never lasted long in the shadows. But Gemma was different. She wasn't brave because she didn't understand the danger. She was brave because she did, and she chose to face it anyway. After the meeting, he heard himself say, after we deal with the council and Valdrin's representative, if you still want to see the darkness, I'll show you. And then if you still want to stay, we'll discuss your options. You mean you'll discuss them, she said. You'll spend the whole time trying to talk me out of it. Absolutely. He cupped her face again, unable to resist touching her. Because I am a selfish creature who wants you to stay, and I am a vampire who knows better than to let you make that choice. Those two truths are going to war inside me, Gemma, and I have no idea which will win. I hope the selfish creature wins, she whispered, because I've never felt this alive, this present, this real, as I have since I met you, and I don't want to give that up. This time, he didn't resist. He kissed her, and it was nothing like the gentle romances mortals dreamed about. It was fierce and desperate and tinged with the knowledge that this might be all they ever had. She gasped against his mouth, her hands fisting in his shirt, and he pulled her closer, needing to feel her warmth, her life, her impossible courage. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. That was probably a mistake, he said, but he didn't let her go. Probably, she agreed, but I'm not sorry. Neither am I. He rested his forehead against hers. But it changes things. You understand that? Now that I've kissed you, now that I've admitted I care, there's no going back. I will protect you with everything I have. I will burn this kingdom to ash before I let anyone take you from me. And that makes you the most dangerous person in my world, because you are my weakness. And you're mine, she said softly. So we're even. He laughed, a genuine sound of amusement and affection. You're insane. You know that, right? Completely, beautifully insane. I prefer romantically fearless. That too. He kissed her forehead, then stepped back. Come. I'm taking you to my quarters, and this time you're actually going to stay there. No more wandering the halls, no more confronting me in throne rooms. You rest, you eat, and you let me handle the politics. And then you come back to me, she said. After the meeting. No matter what happens, you come back. I will. It was a promise he had no business making, but he made it anyway. I always keep my promises, Gemma. You should know that by now. He led her back through the winding corridors, his hand warm on her back. The guards he posted outside his quarters were his best, vampires who had proven their loyalty in countless battles. They wouldn't fail him. They couldn't. Inside, he made sure she had everything she needed: food, water, books to read, access to entertainment. She settled on his bed, looking small and vulnerable against the dark sheets, and he had to force himself to turn away. Lock the door behind me, he said from the doorway. Don't open it for anyone except me or Mordecai. If someone claims there's an emergency, ignore them. If they say I sent them, don't believe it. I will come for you myself when it's safe. Seraphon, she said, and he turned back to her. Thank you for protecting me, for caring, for not giving up. Thank you for being brave enough to find me, he replied, for speaking my name, for reminding me that some things are worth fighting for. He left before he could change his mind, before he could crawl into that bed beside her, and forget about councils and ancient enemies and the responsibilities of a crown he'd worn for 5 centuries. The door closed behind him with a solid click, and he heard the lock slide home. Good. She was listening. She was safe. Now he just had to make sure he survived the next 24 hours. The council met in a chamber deep beneath the city, carved from bedrock and reinforced with magic. Seraphon arrived exactly at midnight with 50 of his best warriors flanking him. The elders looked up from their seats around a massive circular table, and he saw surprise and anger war on their faces. "You were summoned alone," said Constantine, the eldest of the council members. His white hair fell past his shoulders, and his eyes were the color of old blood. He'd been ancient when Seraphon was still mortal, and he'd never forgiven the younger vampire for taking the throne. "I don't answer summons," Seraphon replied mildly. "I grant audiences. There's a difference." "This is a council meeting," Constantine continued. "You have no right to bring an army. And you have no right to conduct diplomatic negotiations without consulting your king." Seraphon moved into the chamber, his warriors spreading out behind him. Yet here we are. Another council member, a woman named Vesper, leaned forward. "We were trying to prevent a war. Valdrin's representative reached out to us. We couldn't simply ignore the opportunity for dialogue." "Valdrin is dead," Seraphon said flatly. "I watched him burn 200 years ago. Whatever contacted you is either an imposter or something much worse." "We considered that possibility," Constantine said. "Which is why we agreed to the meeting, to determine the truth. Something you would have known if you'd bothered to attend council sessions more regularly." "I attend when there's something worth attending." Seraphon's voice went cold. "Listening to you debate protocol for hours doesn't qualify. Now where is this representative?" "He's waiting in the antechamber," Vesper said. "We wanted to brief you before the meeting." "How considerate. What are his demands?" The council members exchanged glances. Finally, Constantine spoke. "He wants the human woman. He claims she's connected to an old debt, one that Valdrin has the right to collect. He's offered to withdraw his forces and leave our territory permanently in exchange for her." "His forces?" Seraphon repeated softly. "What forces?" "He's amassed an army," another council member said. This one was younger, perhaps only 300 years old. "Rogue vampires, mercenaries, creatures from the dark corners of the world. He's camped outside the city limits, waiting for our answer." Seraphon processed this information quickly. If Valdrin truly had returned with an army, the situation was far worse than he'd anticipated. His own forces were substantial, but a protracted war would devastate both sides. "Let me speak to this representative," he said. "Alone." "That's not protocol," Constantine objected. "I don't care." Seraphon fixed him with a stare. "Either I speak to him alone, or I leave and you can handle this diplomatic nightmare yourselves. Choose." The council members conferred in whispers. Finally, Constantine nodded. "Very well, but we're listening from the observation room. If this goes badly, we need to know what was said." "Fine. Watch all you like." Seraphon gestured to his warriors. "Wait outside. If I'm not out in 10 minutes, come in fighting." They obeyed reluctantly, filing out of the chamber. The council members followed them, heading to the observation room where spelled glass would let them see and hear everything without being seen. When Seraphon was alone, he settled into one of the chairs and waited. The representative entered a moment later, and Seraphon's blood went cold. He'd been expecting a stranger, perhaps one of Valdrin's old followers. Instead, he recognized the vampire immediately. Lucian, one of his own council members, a vampire he'd trusted for 200 years. "Hello, my lord," Lucian said, his smile sharp. "Surprised?" "Disappointed," Seraphon replied. "I gave you a place in my court, Lucian. I thought you were loyal." "I was, to a point." Lucian settled into the chair across from him. "But loyalty only goes so far when you're serving someone who hoards power like a dragon hoards gold. You've been king for 500 years, Seraphon. Don't you think it's time to let someone else have a turn? Is that what Valdrin promised you, a throne?" Seraphon laughed. "He's using you. When he's done, he'll discard you like he's discarded everyone else who's ever served him." "Maybe," But at least he respects ambition. Lucian leaned forward. You've grown soft, my lord. You care more about maintaining peace than expanding power. You let humans dictate terms of our existence. You've even fallen for one, if the rumors are true. It's pathetic. Careful, Seraphon said softly. I'm still your king, and kings have very long memories for insults. Not for much longer. Lucian's smile widened. Valdrin wants the girl. He knows she carries your true name in her blood. With that knowledge, he can bind you, control you, make you a puppet. And once you're dealt with, the rest of us can rebuild the vampire world into what it should be. Powerful, feared, dominant. You're describing tyranny, not leadership. Semantics. Lucian waved a hand dismissively. The point is, you have a choice. Give us the girl, and Valdrin promises to spare your life. He'll let you retire peacefully, fade into obscurity, or refuse, and his army marches on this city. A lot of vampires will die. Human casualties will be catastrophic, all because you're too stubborn to let go of one mortal woman. Seraphon studied him, weighing options. Lucian expected anger, expected threats. Instead, Seraphon smiled. You've made a critical error, he said pleasantly. Oh? What's that? You assumed I care more about peace than I do about her. Seraphon stood, moving so fast that Lucian barely had time to react. He grabbed the traitor by the throat and lifted him out of his chair. Let me be very clear. I will burn this world to ash before I let Valdrin take Gemma. I will slaughter every member of his army. I will tear down every alliance, every power structure, every carefully balanced treaty that keeps our world stable. And then I will come for Valdrin himself, and I will make his destruction 200 years ago look merciful by comparison. Lucian clawed at his hand, gasping, You're insane. No, I'm in love. Seraphon's eyes blazed silver, which is far more dangerous. Now, you're going to take a message back to Valdrin. Tell him that Gemma Winters is under my protection, and anyone who tries to take her will face the full might of my throne. Tell him that I'm done playing politics and done negotiating. Tell him that if he wants her, he'll have to go through me. And I've spent 500 years making sure that's a fight no one can win. He released Lucian, letting him drop to the floor. The traitor scrambled backward, fear finally showing in his eyes. This is war, Lucian said hoarsely. You're declaring war. No. Valdrin declared war the moment he came back. I'm just accepting the terms. Seraphon turned toward the door. Now get out. Take your threats and your master's demands and leave my city. You have until dawn. After that, any vampire loyal to Valdrin will be considered an enemy combatant and dealt with accordingly. Lucian fled, and Seraphon stood alone in the chamber, his hands shaking with rage and something else, fear, perhaps, or the weight of what he'd just committed to. The council members filed back in, their expressions ranging from shock to approval to outright horror. You've doomed us all, Constantine said quietly. Valdrin's army will destroy this city. Then we'll rebuild, Seraphon replied. But we'll do it on our terms, not his. I'm done bowing to threats. I'm done negotiating with terrorists. Valdrin wants a war, he'll get one. He left the chamber without waiting for their response. His warriors fell into step around him, and he could feel their anticipation, their readiness for battle. They were loyal, these vampires. They'd followed him through 5 centuries of peace and prosperity. Now they'd follow him into war. He reached his quarters to find Gemma pacing by the window. She turned when he entered, relief flooding her features. You came back, she said. I promised I would. He locked the door behind him and moved to her, pulling her into his arms. I'm sorry, this is going to get worse before it gets better. What happened? He told her everything. The meeting, Lucian's betrayal, Valdrin's demands, his declaration of war. She listened without interrupting, and when he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. You chose me, she said finally, over peace, over the safety of your people, over everything. Yes, he cupped her face. I chose you, and I'd do it again. I'll do it 1,000 times over if I have to. That's insane, she whispered. I'm one person, one mortal, human person. I'm not worth a war. You are to me. He kissed her forehead. You're worth everything to me, and I'm done pretending otherwise. She pulled back, searching his face. What does this mean? For us? It means that when this is over, if we survive, I'm not letting you go. I'm not sending you back to your safe mortal life. I'm keeping you here with me for as long as you'll have me. He paused. Even if that means turning you. Even if that means giving you immortality. Because I've realized something in the last few hours. I've spent 1,000 years being careful, being controlled, never letting myself care too much. And I'm tired. I'm tired of being alone. I'm tired of pretending I don't need anyone. I need you, Gemma. And if that makes me selfish, so be it. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I need you too. I didn't expect to. I came here looking for answers about my family, about this weird destiny my grandfather left me. And instead, I found you. Found this. And now I can't imagine going back to a world where you don't exist. Then don't. He kissed her, and this time there was no hesitation, no holding back. This was a promise, a commitment, a declaration that they were in this together, whatever came next. When they finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. War is coming. Valdrin will march on this city, probably within days. I need to prepare. I need to shore up our defenses, call in allies, ready my army. But I need to know you're safe first. I'll stay here, she promised. I won't leave your quarters. I won't put myself in danger. You have my word. Good. He kissed her again, softer this time. Because if something happened to you, if I lost you now, after finally admitting what you mean to me, I don't think I'd recover. You won't lose me, she said fiercely. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to survive this, together. He wanted to believe her, wanted to have her confidence, but he'd lived too long, seen too many promises broken by fate. Still, looking into her eyes, seeing her absolute certainty, he let himself hope. Together, he repeated. I like the sound of that. The next 3 days were a blur of preparation. Seraphon called in every favor, every alliance he'd carefully maintained over centuries. Vampires arrived from across the continent, warriors who remembered Valdrin's reign of terror and had no wish to see it return. He fortified the city, evacuated human civilians from vulnerable areas, and set up defensive perimeters that would hold off an army for days if necessary. Gemma stayed in his quarters as promised, but she didn't remain idle. She read every book on vampire history she could find, learning about their culture, their laws, their ways of war. Mordecai became her teacher, spending hours explaining the intricacies of vampire politics and magic. She was a quick study, absorbing information like a sponge. On the third night, Seraphon returned to find her deep in conversation with Mordecai about magical theory. They looked up as he entered, and he saw exhaustion in both their faces. You should rest, he told Gemma. So should you, she countered. When's the last time you slept? 70 years ago. It was a Tuesday. He settled beside her on the couch. Vampires don't need sleep the way humans do. A few hours every few months is sufficient. That's a terrible existence, she said, but there was affection in her voice. No wonder you're all so dramatic. You never get enough rest. Despite everything, he smiled. Dramatic? I'll have you know I'm remarkably even-tempered for someone who's lived a millennium. You declared war 3 days ago because someone threatened me, she pointed out. That's pretty dramatic. That's love, he corrected. There's a difference. Mordecai cleared his throat. On that note, I'll leave you two alone. My lord, the latest reports from the scouts are on your desk. Valdrin's army is moving. They'll reach the city outskirts by dawn. The levity drained from the room. Seraphon nodded grimly. Thank you, Mordecai. Get some rest. Tomorrow will be difficult for all of us. The archivist left, and Seraphon found himself alone with Gemma. She moved closer, tucking herself against his side, and he wrapped an arm around her. I'm scared, she admitted quietly. Not for me, for you, for all the people who are going to fight because of me. They're not fighting because of you, he said firmly. They're fighting because Valdrin represents everything we've spent centuries trying to move past. Tyranny, cruelty, the belief that vampires are superior to all other beings. Even without you, this fight would have come eventually. You're just the catalyst. Still, I wish there was something I could do, some way to help. He was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he said, "There might be. It's dangerous, and I hate the idea of putting you at risk. But you asked to see the darkness, to understand what it truly means to be part of my world. This is it. War, blood, the worst of what we're capable of. Tell me," she said. "Whatever it is, I'll do it. Your blood carries knowledge of my true name. Valdrin wants that knowledge because he thinks it will give him control over me. But what if we use that against him?" He turned to face her fully. "What if we let him think he's captured you? Let him try to extract the name? And when he does, when he speaks it, we spring the trap." "You want to use me as bait," she said slowly. "I want to turn his greatest weapon against him. If he speaks my true name, thinking it will give him power, we can use that moment of confidence to strike. He'll be focused on me, on trying to enforce his control. He won't see the attack coming. But he'll have me," she pointed out. "He could kill me before you reach him. That's the risk. That's why I hate this plan even as I propose it. But if we go with a traditional battle, thousands will die. Human and vampire alike. The city could be destroyed. This way we end it quickly with minimal casualties." She was quiet, processing. Then she nodded. "I'll do it. But you have to promise me something. Anything. Promise that if this goes wrong, if he does manage to get control over you, you'll find a way to fight it. Don't let him use you. Don't let my decision to help turn you into something you're not. I promise." He kissed her temple. "Though I should warn you, fighting magical compulsion isn't easy. True name magic is powerful. If he speaks the name correctly with the right intention, I might not be able to resist. Then we make sure he can't speak it correctly." She pulled out her journal, flipping to a blank page. "We alter the name. Just slightly. Enough that it won't work, but not so much that he'd notice immediately. Can that be done?" Seraphon stared at her, then laughed in sheer delight. "You're brilliant. Yes, that can be done. Names have power, but they're also specific. Change even one syllable, and the magic fails. We'll teach you a slightly different pronunciation. When he tries to use it, nothing will happen. And then you kill him," she finished. "With extreme prejudice," he agreed. "But this means you'll have to be convincing. You'll have to let him capture you, interrogate you, possibly hurt you. You'll have to sell the performance that you're terrified and broken. Can you do that?" "I was an actress in college," she said. "I can be convincing. Besides, the terror will be real. I just have to channel it properly. If at any point you want out, if it becomes too much, you signal me. We'll abort and go with the traditional battle." He cupped her face. "I won't sacrifice you for victory, Gemma. You're more important than any kingdom." "I know." She covered his hands with hers. "That's why this will work. Because he won't expect you to value one human life over thousands of vampire lives. He'll think you're bluffing, that you'd never really put me at that risk. But you will, because you trust me to handle it." "I do trust you," he pulled her close. "More than I've trusted anyone in centuries. You've proven yourself brave and clever and absolutely insane. You're going to fit in perfectly with vampire society." She laughed, and the sound eased some of the tension in his chest. "When this is over, when Valdrin is dealt with, I want you to turn me. Make me what you are. I don't want to wait, don't want to grow old while you stay young. I want forever with you, Seraphon. I want everything." "You'll have it," he promised. "I'll give you eternity. We'll have centuries to explore the world, to learn each other, to build something beautiful from this chaos. But first, we survive tomorrow." "Together," she said, echoing his earlier words. "Together," he agreed. They spent the rest of the night planning. Seraphon called in his most trusted warriors and explained the plan. Some objected, unwilling to risk their king's human companion. Others saw the brilliance in it and agreed immediately. By dawn, everything was in place. Gemma would be captured during Valdrin's assault on the city. Seraphon's guards would put up a fight, but ultimately let her be taken. She'd be brought to Valdrin's camp, where he would attempt to extract her knowledge. When he tried to use the true name, and it failed, Seraphon would strike with a carefully positioned force. It was risky. It relied on perfect timing and Gemma's ability to maintain her composure under pressure. But it was their best chance at ending this without massive bloodshed. As dawn approached, Seraphon walked Gemma through the altered pronunciation one more time. Seraphion, she said carefully. Not Seraphion. The middle vowel shifts. It sounds almost the same, but the magical significance is completely different. Perfect. He memorized the sound, the way her lips shaped the word. When he asks, you'll be reluctant. Make him work for it. But eventually, you give in, and you give him that version. He'll try to use it, and nothing will happen. And then, you appear, very dramatically, and save the day. She finished with a slight smile. I am a vampire, he said. We do everything dramatically. It's in the handbook. She laughed, then sobered. I'm scared, not going to lie. The idea of being in Valdrin's hands even temporarily terrifies me. It should. He pulled her close. He's a monster, but he's also predictable. He'll want to gloat, to explain his grand plan. That's his weakness. He can't just win. He has to make sure everyone knows he's won. That ego will buy us time. I hope you're right. So do I. He kissed her, slow and deep, memorizing the taste of her. If this goes badly, if I don't make it back, I want you to know that these past few days with you have been the best of my very long life. You made me feel again, Gemma. You made me hope. That's a gift I can never repay. Don't you dare, she said fiercely. Don't you dare say goodbye like that. You're coming back. We're both surviving this. And then we're going to have that forever you promised me. You're right. He forced confidence into his voice. We're going to win. And tomorrow night we'll celebrate. I'll show you all the beauty of immortality, none of the darkness. We'll dance under the stars, travel to places you've only dreamed of. We'll have everything. That's better, she said, but her voice shook slightly. That's the future I'm fighting for. A knock at the door interrupted them. Theron entered, his expression grave. My lord, they're here. Valdrin's army has reached the outer defenses. The battle is beginning. Seraphon nodded and stood, pulling Gemma with him. Then let's end this, for good. The battle was chaos. Vampires clashed in the streets, supernatural speed and strength turning the city into a war zone. Seraphon led from the front, his warriors rallying around him. He caught glimpses of Gemma being protected by guards who would ultimately let her be captured. She played her part perfectly, looking terrified and vulnerable. When Valdrin's forces finally reached her position, Seraphon felt his heart clench. This was the moment, the point of no return. He watched from a nearby rooftop as enemy vampires overwhelmed her guards and seized her. She screamed, fought, made it look real. Then they dragged her away, disappearing into the chaos. Phase 1 complete, Theron said quietly beside him. Now we wait. Now we wait, Seraphon agreed, though every instinct screamed at him to chase after her. And we pray that she's as strong as I believe she is. In Valdrin's camp, Gemma was thrown into a tent. She landed hard, the impact jarring, and looked up to see a vampire studying her with ancient eyes. He was tall, pale as death, with white hair that fell in a straight curtain past his shoulders, beautiful and terrible, exactly as the stories described. So, Valdrin said, his voice like silk over razors. You're the little human who has captured my wayward child's attention. How quaint. I don't know what you're talking about, Gemma said, putting fear into her voice. Not hard, since she was actually terrified. Please, just let me go. I'm nobody. I don't matter. On the contrary, you matter very much. Valdrin moved closer, circling her like a predator. You carry knowledge that I need. A name. Seraphon's true name. The one he's kept hidden for a millennium. I don't know any name, she insisted. I just met him a few days ago. He didn't tell me anything. Liar. Valdrin grabbed her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. I can smell the truth on you, you know, and you're going to tell me. Even if I did know, she said, trying to inject bravery into her voice, I'd never betray him. He protected me. He cares about me. I won't help you hurt him. Admirable. Stupid, but admirable. Valdrin released her and stepped back. I could torture it out of you. I've broken far stronger beings than one soft human girl, but I'm feeling generous today, so I'll give you a choice. Tell me the name willingly, and I'll let you live. Refuse, and I'll kill you slowly, painfully, and Seraphon will hear every scream. Gemma let tears fall, let her breath hitch. Why? Why do you need his name? What do you want with him? He's my creation, Valdrin said simply. I turned him 1,000 years ago. He was supposed to be mine, to serve me, to build my empire alongside me. Instead, he rebelled, fled, built his own kingdom while I rotted in exile. And now, I'm going to take it all back. But I need leverage. I need control, and his true name will give me that. If I tell you, Gemma said slowly, will you promise to spare him, to not hurt him? Oh, I'm going to hurt him very much, Valdrin said with a smile. But I won't destroy him. He's too useful for that. I'll break him, remake him, turn him into the weapon he was always meant to be, but he'll survive. That's the best I can offer. Gemma pretended to consider, then nodded shakily. Okay, I'll tell you. But only if you swear. Swear that you won't kill him. I swear, Valdrin said, and the lie was obvious in his tone. Now, the name. She took a breath, let it out trembling. Seraphon. His true name is Seraphon. Valdrin's eyes gleamed with triumph. He turned away from her, raising his hands. Seraphon, he called out, speaking to the air. By your true name, I command you. Come to me. Serve me. Bow before your maker and accept your fate. Nothing happened. Valdrin frowned. He repeated the command, putting more power into the words. Still, nothing. Gemma watched him grow frustrated, then angry. That's his name, she insisted. I swear. That's what he told me. Then why isn't it working? Valdrin spun on her, fury contorting his features. Why isn't he here? I don't know. Maybe you're saying it wrong? Maybe it doesn't work that way. She scrambled backward as he advanced. I gave you what you wanted. You gave me nothing. He grabbed her by the throat, lifting her off the ground. You wasted my time with lies and games. Now you're going to pay for it. At that moment, the tent exploded inward. Seraphon appeared in a blur of motion, wrenching Gemma from Valdrin's grasp and pulling her behind him. His warriors poured in, surrounding them, weapons drawn. Hello, Valdrin, Seraphon said calmly. Miss me? Valdrin's eyes widened, then narrowed. How did you resist the summons? Unless... Understanding dawned. She gave me the wrong name, on purpose. You planned this. We did. Seraphon's smile was sharp. You always were predictable, all ego and no substance. You thought you could capture my true name and control me. But the only people who know that name are standing in this tent right now, and neither of us is interested in serving you. Then I'll kill her, Valdrin snarled. I'll rip her apart in front of you. You can try. Seraphon moved, and the battle exploded into motion. Vampires clashed, but the fight was over almost before it began. Seraphon's warriors had the advantage of numbers and positioning. Valdrin found himself surrounded, outmatched. Seraphon himself moved like death incarnate, a whirlwind of precision and fury. He drove Valdrin back, step by step, until the ancient vampire was cornered. You were my maker, Seraphon said quietly. You gave me immortality. For that, I owe you gratitude. But you also enslaved me, tortured me, tried to break me. For that, I owe you vengeance. Consider us even. He struck, and his blade found Valdrin's heart. The ancient vampire gasped, staggered. Silver-blessed steel, spelled and enchanted, did what nothing else could. It didn't just wound. It killed. Valdrin crumbled to ash, his centuries of existence finally, truly, ended. Silence fell over the tent. Then Seraphon turned, searching for Gemma. She stood where he'd left her, wide-eyed and shaking but alive, unharmed. He crossed to her in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. "It's over," he murmured. "You're safe. You did it. You brilliant, insane, perfect woman." She clung to him, shaking. "I thought he was going to kill me. When the name didn't work, I thought I was dead. I would never have let that happen." He kissed her hair, her forehead, her cheeks. "I was right outside the whole time. If he'd actually hurt you, I would have come through those walls. I know." She pulled back enough to look at him. "We won. It's really over? It's really over." He gestured to his warriors. "Spread the word. Valdrin is destroyed. Any of his followers who surrender will be shown mercy. Any who fight will be eliminated. End this." They dispersed quickly, and Seraphon led Gemma out of the tent. Around them, the battle was winding down. Valdrin's army, hearing of their leader's death, was surrendering en masse. The city would survive. His people would survive. And Gemma was alive, warm and real in his arms. "Take me home," she said quietly. "Back to your quarters. I need to feel safe again." "You are safe," he promised. "Always. For as long as you're with me, you're safe." He carried her through the damaged streets, back to his underground court. The celebration had already begun, vampires rejoicing in their victory. But Seraphon ignored them all, focused entirely on getting Gemma to safety. In his quarters, he set her down carefully on the bed. She looked up at him with exhausted eyes. "I need to ask you something," she said, "before I lose my courage, before the adrenaline wears off and I start thinking too hard. Anything. Turn me, tonight, now. Make me what you are." She sat up, determination replacing exhaustion. "I've seen the darkness. I've faced the worst of your world, and I still want in. I still want you, want this, want forever. So please, no more waiting, no more being careful. Turn me." Seraphon studied her, searching for any hint of doubt. He found none, just certainty, fierce and absolute. "Are you sure?" he asked quietly. "Once it's done, it can't be undone. You'll never see sunlight again, never taste human food, never age, never change, never die a natural death. Everything you were, everything you might have been, you give up for this." "I know." She reached for his hand. "And I choose it anyway. I choose you. I choose forever. Turn me, Seraphon. Make me yours in every way that matters." He closed his eyes, emotion threatening to overwhelm him. Then he opened them and nodded. "All right. But we do this properly. Not in haste, not in the aftermath of battle. You deserve better than that." He led her to the bathroom, where he drew a bath. While she soaked, he prepared the room, lighting candles and pulling out ancient texts. The turning was a ritual, one that required care and intention. He wouldn't rush it. When she emerged, clean and calm, he guided her back to the bed. "Lie down," he said softly. "This is going to hurt. The transformation is agony. I won't lie to you. But I'll be here the whole time. I won't leave you. I'm not afraid." She settled on the sheets, her hair spreading around her. "Not of pain, not of change. I'm only afraid of losing you." "Never," he promised. He lay beside her, pulling her close. "Ready?" "Yes." He bit down on her throat, his fangs sinking deep. She gasped, her hands fisting in his shirt. He drank, taking just enough to bring her to the edge of death. Then he bit his own wrist and pressed it to her lips. "Drink," he commanded. "Take my blood. Let it remake you." She did, and the world exploded into sensation. Seraphon held her as the transformation began, as his blood rewrote her very existence. She screamed, convulsing, and he held her through it all, murmuring reassurances and promises. Hours passed. The worst of the pain faded, replaced by something else. Awareness, sharp and clear. Her heartbeat slowed, then stopped entirely. Her breathing changed, became optional rather than necessary, and her eyes, when they opened, glowed with supernatural light. Seraphon, she whispered, and the sound of his true name on her new vampire lips sent shivers through him. I can feel everything, hear everything. It's overwhelming. It gets easier, he promised. Your senses will settle. For now, focus on me. Focus on my voice. Let everything else fade into background noise. She did, her gaze locking on his. Slowly, the overwhelming input dimmed. She relaxed against him, exploring her new body with wonder. I'm stronger, she said, flexing her fingers. So much stronger, and faster. I can feel the power in my muscles. You're a vampire now, he said, pride and affection warming his voice. My vampire, my companion, my partner in everything. Your partner, she repeated, smiling. I like that. Much better than pet or mortal companion. You were never going to be either of those things. He kissed her, and it was different now. Equal in a way it hadn't been before. No longer a vampire and a human, but two immortals choosing each other. What happens now? She asked when they broke apart. Do I need to feed? Am I going to lose control and attack someone? Not immediately. The transformation provides enough sustenance for a few days. But yes, you'll need to learn to feed properly, to control the hunger. I'll teach you. He smoothed her hair back. We have time now, Gemma. All the time in the world. We'll take it slow, learn together. I want to meet the sun, she said suddenly. Or rather, I want to say goodbye to it, one last time, before I can never see it again. That's not possible, he said gently. Sunlight would kill you now. Even indirect light would burn. Then let me see it from a distance, behind glass, in a photograph, something. She sat up. I need closure, Seraphon. I need to acknowledge what I've given up, or I'll spend centuries wondering about it. He considered, then nodded. There's a chamber deep underground with spelled glass. It allows vampires to watch sunrises without being harmed. It's not the same as standing in the light, but it's something. Come, we have an hour before dawn. He led her through the winding corridors to a room she'd never seen. The chamber was small, intimate, with one entire wall made of spelled glass. Beyond it, the eastern sky was just beginning to lighten. They settled on a bench, and Seraphon pulled her against his side. Together, they watched as the sky shifted from black to purple to pink to gold. The sun rose, brilliant and terrible, a sight that would now kill them if they tried to approach it. Gemma was quiet, tears sliding down her cheeks, but when she finally spoke, her voice was steady. Thank you for showing me, for letting me have this moment. Thank you for choosing me, he replied, for choosing this life, even knowing what it costs. It's not a cost, she said firmly. It's a trade. Sunlight for starlight, mortality for eternity, loneliness for love. I'd make this choice 1,000 times over. You never have to, he said. Once is enough. Now we have forever. They sat until the sun was fully risen, then returned to his quarters. Gemma was fading, exhaustion from the transformation catching up with her. Seraphon tucked her into bed and lay beside her. Sleep, he murmured. When you wake, we'll start your training. But for now, just rest. You've earned it. Stay with me? She asked, her eyes already closing. Always, he promised. I'm not going anywhere. Not now, not ever. She fell asleep with a smile on her lips, and Seraphon watched her, marveling at this impossible gift he'd been given. A partner, a companion, someone who had chosen him freely, who understood the darkness and embraced it anyway. The council would have questions. The city would need rebuilding. There were politics to navigate and alliances to shore up. But all of that could wait. For now, he had Gemma, safe and transformed, and finally, truly his. In the days that followed, they fell into a rhythm. Gemma learned to feed, to hunt, to move with the speed and grace of her new existence. Seraphon taught her everything, patient and thorough. She was a quick study, mastering in weeks what took most vampires years to learn. The city recovered from the battle. Valdrin's surviving followers were either integrated into Seraphon's court or exiled. The Elders' Council, chastened by the betrayal of one of their own, became more cooperative. Seraphon's authority was absolute now. his victory over Valdrin proving his strength. And through it all, Gemma was at his side, not as a trophy or a possession, but as a true partner. She attended council meetings, offered insights, made connections with vampires from across the continent. She was respected, admired, and just a little feared. Exactly as she should be. 3 months after her transformation, Seraphon found her standing on one of the high balconies of his underground court, looking up at the stone ceiling. "Missing the sky?" he asked, joining her. "A little," she admitted. "But not as much as I thought I would. I've found other things to appreciate. The stars, for instance. They're so much more beautiful when you can see them with vampire eyes. And the night itself. There's a whole world that only comes alive after sunset." "There is," he agreed. "And we have eternity to explore it together." "I still can't quite believe this is real," she said softly. "That I found you, that you chose me, that we survived everything and came out the other side. Believe it," he pulled her close. "You whispered my name in your sleep, and everything changed. A 1,000-year-old promise finally fulfilled, a bloodline debt repaid. 2 people who should never have met, brought together by magic and fate and sheer stubborn determination. The best kind of love story," she said with a smile. "The impossible kind." "The enduring kind," he corrected. "We're going to have centuries together, Gemma. Centuries to build something beautiful, something that outlasts us both. What do you want to do with all that time?" She thought about it, then grinned. "Everything. I want to see every corner of the world, learn every language, read every book. I want to understand this world I've joined, really understand it. And I want to do it all with you beside me." "Done," he said simply. "Consider it our eternity project." "I love you," she said, the words spilling out naturally. "I know I should have said it before, should have made some big declaration. But I love you, Seraphon. Seraphaen. Whatever name you want to be called. I love you completely." "I love you too," he replied, and the words felt like coming home. "I have loved you since the moment you spoke my true name. Since the moment I realized you were brave enough to cross the country to find me. Since the moment you chose to stay, even knowing the darkness that came with it. You are my eternity, Gemma Winters, and I am yours." She kissed him, and in that moment, everything was perfect. The past was resolved, the future was infinite, and the present held everything they needed. 2 souls bound by magic and choice, vampire and newly turned, king and partner, facing eternity together. The city celebrated their union with a ceremony that night. Vampires from across the continent attended, bearing gifts and pledges of loyalty. Gemma wore a gown of midnight blue, her new vampire beauty radiant in the candlelight. Seraphon stood beside her in formal attire, his white hair bound back with silver clasps. Mordecai officiated, speaking the ancient words that bound them together before the court. It was not a marriage in the human sense, but something deeper. A blood bond, recognized by vampire law and magic. They would be partners now in every way that mattered, their fates intertwined for eternity. When it was done, when the last words were spoken and the last ritual completed, Seraphon pulled Gemma into his arms and kissed her before their assembled court. The vampires erupted in celebration, music filling the hall. They danced, and it was everything Seraphon had promised, beautiful and eternal and right. Gemma laughed, her joy infectious, and he found himself smiling more than he had in centuries. Later, when the celebration had died down and they were alone in his quarters, she turned to him with a question in her eyes. "What was she like?" she asked. "Gwendolyn, I mean. The girl you saved all those years ago." "Brave," he said after a moment. "Like you. She had the same fire in her eyes, the same refusal to back down. I'd forgotten that until I met you. How much she reminded me that courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about being terrified and doing the right thing anyway." "I wish I could have met her," Gemma said. "Thanked her for making the promise that eventually led me to you." "In a way, you did meet her." He touched her cheek. "She's in your blood, your bones, Your very existence. You carry her legacy forward, and now you've fulfilled her promise. She'd be proud. I hope so. Gemma leaned into his touch. I hope she knows wherever she is that her sacrifice mattered, that the promise she made changed everything. She knows, Seraphon said with certainty. Somewhere, somehow, she knows, and she's grateful that her line ended with someone as remarkable as you. They stood together in the quiet of his quarters, two immortals at the beginning of their forever. Outside, the city slept and woke, humans going about their lives, unaware of the vampire court beneath their feet. Unaware of the ancient king and his newly turned companion, building something beautiful in the shadows. What do we do now? Gemma asked. Now that the war is over and the crisis is resolved and we have nothing but time ahead of us? Now, Seraphon said with a smile, we live, we love. We build a future worth the sacrifices that brought us here. We honor the promises of the past by creating something better in the present. He kissed her forehead. And we do it together, every step of the way. Together, she agreed. And the word was a vow, a promise, a declaration of everything they would become. They had eternity to figure out the details, but in that moment, standing in each other's arms, they had everything that mattered: love, trust, and the knowledge that they had found something rare and precious in the darkness. A love that transcended time, death, and destiny itself. A love worth fighting for, worth transforming for, worth giving up sunlight and mortality to preserve. They had found each other across centuries and bloodlines, called together by a promise made in firelight 1,000 years ago. And now they had forever to make good on that promise, to build something that would outlast even their immortal lives. It was enough, more than enough. It was everything.